Hello, and welcome. This is episode 127, and today we are talking all about what it takes to be successful. What do you think it is? Oh, okay, I'll give it away. Motivation and consistency. Now, it's been a while since I've chatted about these two topics together, but before we do so, I want to give you a mini update with what's going on in my personal life. I like being real. I like being transparent, and I love being open, honest, and authentic. So, what's going on in my personal life? Let's see. My dad started his first chemo appointment last week on October 31st, and he was doing well, but 4 or 5 days later, on Saturday, just a couple days ago, he actually slipped and fell, bumped his head, and passed out. So he spent the last couple days in the hospital. He's still there now, but he's in the best care possible. And the reason why I am sharing this is there are moments in life that are going to interfere with motivation and consistency. There are other priorities that you are dealing with, and it's important to keep these priorities in check. Worried about my dad, and he gave us quite a scare this weekend, and that's enough to take anybody off kilter. I'd also shared with you a couple of episodes ago about my struggles with the business, and it ebbs and flows, and pleased to tell you that I've decided to take on a full-time job while I am building my business. This way here, I can mitigate the finances that are coming in. I can be a lot more prepared, and I can take action towards my goals. You see, my goals are big, and no matter what it looks like, I'm not stopping to work on them. There's no harm, and I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs listening to this. I know there's a lot. There is no harm in needing to do what you need to do to take care of yourself, because how effective are you when you're in scarcity mindset? And whether you realize it or not, it has a big impact. Even your affirmations won't work when you're coming from the place of scarcity. And it's easy to make these thoughts and decisions feeling like perhaps you're not good enough, or perhaps you're going off course, or are you giving up on yourself? And that's a big one. That's a heavy one. And this is the reason why I'm bringing this up. A couple weeks ago, I think it was episode 125, maybe it was episode 124, I chatted with you all about my personal life. I sat there and gave you all of the information, all of the goods, all of the stresses that was going on. And I did that with intention. It doesn't matter where we're at in our lives. We're all going through something. I've got a team of people that I want to keep employed. They're amazing. I love them. They do their job perfectly, and they enable me to do my job perfectly. And we're revamping a few things, and with that comes pause. And there is nothing wrong with taking something else to help you get to where you want to go. Nobody says getting to your goals is linear, because it's not. So keep in mind the struggles that we all face in life as we lean into today's episode. Really happy to share. Well, I'm not happy to share my dad's news for this weekend, but the fact that he started chemo, and the fact that there's some areas progressing there, and that there are emotions that come with that. The same thing with my business. There are emotions that come with that. I have to stop and remind myself, yes, I've been in business for 15 years. COVID knocked my business on my ass. Excuse my words here, but I went from making good money every month to nothing overnight. And yes, I've written books, and yes, I do podcasts now, and yes, I've done all of these other areas, but essentially, it's like starting from scratch. Because my clients that I had before are not necessarily the same clients I have now. Those were personal training clients. There's nothing wrong with doing whatever it takes. So now that we've had that mini update, I'm going to share with you what it takes to truly be successful in life. And that is consistency and motivation. And before we go too far in today's episode, I want you to think, okay, I'm not even going to want you to think back. I want you to visualize something. Grab a cup of rice. And you literally don't have to do this, but go with me on the visual. Grab a cup of rice or a handful of coins. Actually, I like the idea of a cup of rice. And we're going to pour it on your desk. Find a nice spot, kitchen island, desk. Pour a cup of rice there. Now, literally, you have one pile. Correct? Move 1 grain of rice over. Just 1 grain. Now, it's going to be hard to visualize those as 2 separate piles, but indeed they are. It's just that one pile has 1 grain of rice. The other pile has all of the other grains of rice. But every day, if you move 1 grain of rice over to the other pile, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to effectively start by having 2 piles. Then, if you continue with that process, you are going to have 1 pile where that small grain of rice was. That is the power of consistency. Whether you use rice, coins, beans, jelly beans, I don't recommend jelly beans because you might eat them. I would eat them. I would love jelly beans. But we're going to keep that visual in mind today as we're talking about the power of consistency. It's easy to start off being motivated. It's easy to think, oh, we got a clean slate and here's what we're going to do. But what happens when? So you ready? We're going to dig in, get your cup of coffee, get your tea, get settled, grab your piece of paper. I always love to have a piece of paper and pen handy when I am listening to podcasts because I jot down so many different notes. I do have a book recommendation, and it's Better Than Before by Gretchen Rubin. Now, I've read some of her other books as well. This one is fitting for today's podcast. So if you're not familiar with the book I wrote this year that I put together called the Getting Started Guide, within that guide, which can be found on Amazon, and I will add the link. I'm just making myself a note here. Add the link to the Getting Started Guide on Amazon. In that book, which you can download, or if you're local, you can message me and I can sign out a sent copy. Oh, I think I said that wrong. I can sign and send out a copy for the same price. If you're international, or even in Canada, I do charge shipping. But I otherwise just order it on Amazon. But within that book, and you're going to want the hard copy because I don't believe there's a PDF version of this, there is an actual book list in that book. So on the book list, you can write down all of the recommended reads and then color them in once you've read them. This is exactly what I do every year, every day. Every time I read a book or I get a recommendation, I complete my book list. I write the books down on my list and I literally color them in once I have read them. And that is a way of keeping track. It's a way of me showing how consistent I am when it comes to my reading. So Better Than Before by Gretchen Rubin, an amazing read. You're going to find this to be really, really good with today's episode. There's going to be some tidbits that you're going to pick up. I mean, there's lots of books out there, but I'm recommending what works for me, obviously, or you wouldn't be listening to this. She came up with this philosophy. I mean, she didn't come up with the rice philosophy, but she talks about how it benefited her in this book. So we all have those days when we don't feel like doing anything. Maybe we had a tough day at work, or we're just feeling lazy, or whatever the reason is, it is easy, so easy to let our motivation slip on these days. But if we're consistent, even on the days where we don't feel like it, we're still getting things done. And usually, once we're started, it's not as bad as we thought it could be. It's true. It's not as bad. And I'm just making myself another note because for those that have been following along, whether my YouTube or my social media handles, especially on Facebook, I go live every single day. But on Fridays, I do a check-in Friday. And we talk about the wins for the week in the areas of meals, movement, mindset, and your relationship with money, aka stress. So in case you're wondering where money falls into those other 3 factors or into those 4 pillars, and the reason why money comes up is because money is the biggest stressor of all. Money ruins relationships. Money puts people into scarcity. So we talk about money and our relationship with money. And I'm not going to go off on that any more than I just did. I get excited to do these podcasts. I love sharing this information with you. So I'm going to put a couple of links, or a link to my most recent Check-In Friday in the show notes as well. And you can see what I do and how different ways I keep track, because these are the ways I can tell how consistent I am. And I've got a good year of Check-In Fridays on my YouTube channel, but I will definitely add that link, or a couple of links where you can see how to get them, where you can see some quick ways of evaluating what's working and what's not working and how you're keeping on track. Because when we're consistent, even on the days that we don't feel like it, we're still getting things done. And as I just got through mentioning, it's not nearly as bad as what we thought it would be. So think about starting a new diet or a workout. In the beginning, you're motivated, you go shopping, you maybe get some clothes, or you get a new water bottle, or you've got a new program. You're excited to make a change. But eventually, that motivation begins to fade, and it becomes harder and harder to stick with your goals. It sounds silly saying this out loud, of course, right? Because consistency will always trump motivation. However, lately, I have been heavily reliant on motivation to get things done. And that's a wake-up call. It is, because we're not always feeling motivated. As the seasons change, so do we. As life gets heavy, it's easy to forget that motivation. Yesterday, I was looking at my Apple Watch, and I was noticing my activity level. I was really proud that I went for a run, and I didn't take a snapshot the way I normally did, just to keep myself accountable, because, I share so much with everybody. And I ended up circling back and looking. I'm like, wow, I did 20 workouts last month, or 20-ish, and then 20-ish the month before. I'm like, okay, I'm pretty consistent. I'm doing pretty good. However, when I went back 3 to 4 months ago, I was doing 40 activities a month. Something changed. I know what changed. Looking back, I had to stop and pause for a second. I wasn't working out every day. I have not been taking the dogs for their daily walk, which is AKA my mental health walk. That was when I would listen to my personal development books. I was not doing yoga. I was only working out when other people were paying me. That's not a good reason to work out when I love the way my body feels. So you can see in that prime example right there, the difference between consistency and motivation. Consistency means I'm doing it anyways. Now, I've changed from when I was working with the client, and I'm a lot more consistent on my own. But knowing that I was at 40 and I am now consistently at 20, I'm motivated to change. 20 exercises a month is fantastic, but I know I'm capable of 40. I'm not riding my bike with my best friend twice a week like I was in the summer. I'm not sitting and stretching through yoga like I was in the summer. And I just got through admitting I'm not walking the dogs. So I am doing some HIIT workouts, high intensity interval training, with or without clients. I am doing that on my own. I am trying to run a little bit more, but I want to up my game more than 20. So this is what separates successful people from unsuccessful people, is their consistency in taking action, even when they don't feel motivated. Being consistent is more important than being motivated, especially for the long-term goals, like weight loss, like energy, like happiness, like your health. Health and happiness, man. There is no bars about it. Those are the only things that we want. When we're sick, we have one wish: to feel healthy. When we're healthy, we have many wishes. No, I was going to go off on a sidebar. No, I'm going to reel myself back in because I get passionate about health and happiness. But it's often forgotten that motivation is a fleeting feeling. It comes and goes, and it's not always easy to rely on. But on the other hand, consistency is a habit that we cultivate over time. We can depend on it even when we're not feeling motivated. This is important because consistency will help us achieve our goals in the long run. So, anyone who's ever tried to achieve a demanding goal, such as weight loss, such as more energy, such as shaping into their clothes or fitting into their clothes a little bit better, you know how, even saving money, you know how being consistent is critical. Whether it's working out, eating healthy, studying for an exam, or some of the other examples I just mentioned. Consistency is what it takes when it comes to reaching your goals. The reason is simple. Consistency leads to momentum. The more consistency you do something, the easier it becomes, the more momentum you build up. Eventually, what was once a struggle becomes a habit, and habits are hard to break. We know that. Good habits, bad habits, we know how hard habits are to break. That's why we habit stack. More about that on a different episode, but that's exactly why we habit stack, to get results. And that's why consistency is so important. It's the key to making lasting changes. So if you're looking to achieve a goal, remember to be consistent no matter what, and you'll eventually reach your destination. You can mix it up. Your workout doesn't have to be, and I'm using workout today, I'm using fitness as my topic of choice, but insert here whatever you want it to be. I have a couple of different goals I want to work on, whether it's saving money, whatever it looks like, bringing down your debt ratio, whether it's learning to be rejected by asking people to do things over and over again so you can practice hearing the word no. You need to be consistent in your action. How to be more consistent in your actions is what I'm going to share with you right now. I have a few things that I want to recommend that will help you be consistent in your actions. Set realistic goals. Our goals must be realistic, otherwise we're setting ourselves up for failure. We're more likely to give up when we set unrealistic goals because we can't seem to achieve them. We need to break them down into small bite-sized pieces. Find an accountability partner. Hello. You can't see me. My hand's up. I'm like, that's exactly what I do. I'm your accountability coach. I help you keep your promises to yourself. And having somebody like me hold you accountable can be a great way to stay on track. We know that someone depends on us. And when we know this, we're more likely to follow through. And this can be as simple as a study buddy, your banker helping you, reminding you to pay your $5 extra every week on your bills. And yes, some people will do that because they want your business, or even a workout partner. It's critical to start small. Trying to do too much at once can be overwhelming, and it's often one of the reasons why people give up. We're more likely to stick with it when we start small because it's not as daunting. We can always increase our goals over time, but when we start small, we won't get discouraged. Set a schedule. I like working out first thing in the morning. If it doesn't get done first thing in the morning, it doesn't always get done. So for me, having a schedule can help us be more consistent because it gives us structure. When we know we need to do something, it's easy to follow through. Make it a habit. So this is a good one where I'm going to switch the example, because when it comes to making it a habit, one of the best ways to be more consistent is to turn our goal into a habit. Habit stacking, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, was critical for me when it came to being consistent with my journaling. I was not consistent with my journaling. I'd moved it to night. I moved it to my phone. I did different things. I even have a phone reminder that says journal to remind me to journal at night at 9:30 at night when I was sitting there waiting for Tony on the couch. But that was only effective for a short period of time. That was not where it needed to be. But the one thing I was doing regularly and often was I was always doing my reflections, which means pulling my oracle cards, writing out what those messages mean to me. And I was doing that consistently for the last couple of years, every morning before I started work. Before I started my workday, I would sit there and that would be how I grounded myself. So now, over the last couple of months, maybe 3 or 4 months, I've been journaling before I do my reflections. I write down what I'm thinking. I write down what I'm grateful for. I just write down whatever it is. And even my journaling has changed, to be honest, which is kind of cool. But the reason why habit stacking works is because you're already in a habit anyways, and habits are so hard to break. So when something becomes a habit, we don't even have to think about it. It's just something we do. And that's exactly what happened when it came to habit stacking my journaling with my reflections. And now I journal every single day. Find a role model. It is helpful to have someone we can look up to who is consistent in their actions. This can help us stay motivated and on track when we're feeling down. Create a routine. Don't underestimate the power of a ritual or routine. A routine helps us be more consistent because it becomes second nature, as I've been sharing. We all know what we need to do and when, so there's less room for error. My podcasts are typically done on a Monday morning. I get off schedule when it happens, when life gets in the way. When there's a long weekend, I used to be really on schedule. You guys have seen me miss a couple of episodes here or there. That was me not being consistent. That was me being a human. But when you put things in at the right time, it works. And that's what it is by creating a routine. You actually feel guilty when you break that routine. And set a deadline. We all have deadlines to meet. And when we do, we're more likely to be consistent in our actions because we want to reach it. We don't want to let ourselves down, and we want to finish the task at hand. Now, you can still do it without a deadline. And when you do have a deadline in place, keep in mind that you can move that needle. The deadline can move as long as you continue to take inspired action every day. I've been losing weight over the last 6 months, significantly. Now, that was part of my goal, was to lose weight, release weight. I don't say the word lose weight. I've been releasing weight slowly because it hasn't been hugely intentional. But I've been getting, that is the side effect to me moving my body and making healthier choices. If I had a goal written down, now I am intentionally not using a goal for this because I have so many other things in my life right now that I am responsible for. But I do have some other goals written down on my desk with a date, with a timeline that I look at every single day, which means I focus in these areas every single day. So there's a benefit of being a consistent person. You're going to achieve more goals. You'll be more productive. You'll be more reliable. You'll develop better habits, and you'll be happier. So now we talked about consistency, so now let's dive in a little bit between the difference between motivation and inspiration, because many people confuse the two. Motivation comes from within, whereas inspiration comes from external sources. So when we're motivated, we set a goal for ourselves and we want to achieve it. Inspiration, on the other hand, is when we want something that inspires us to take action. I'm going to say that again. Inspiration is when we see something that inspires us or triggers us to take action. We all know what it feels like to be motivation. You know, that little voice inside your head, in my case, negative Nelly, but she's not being negative. So the powerful Super Sonia, that voice telling me I can do whatever it takes. You know, they tell you not to give up. It gets you out of bed in the morning, helps you stay focused throughout the day. And while motivation is super important, it's not the only thing that drives us to achieve our goals. Inspiration is just as powerful. Inspiration is what we feel when we see someone else accomplishing something great, something that we want, because it drives us to be better than we were yesterday. It's what fills us with hope and determination. So next time you're feeling down, remember that motivation and inspiration are the two most powerful forces in the world. Use them to your advantage. Give yourself a mental name when it comes for the thoughts that are leading you and bringing you to that powerful new direction. You will be unstoppable. It is essential to be both motivated and inspired, but it's more important to be consistent. Motivation is going to come and go, and if we're inspired by something, we're likely going to take action, But it's critical to be surrounded by things that inspire us so we can continuously seek out new sources of inspiration. And yeah, don't worry. Everybody has bad days where they don't feel motivated to work or get out of bed, or it's a lazy Sunday and you're sitting on the couch. Consider that recharging. We all need to plug in our batteries and recharge. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. That moment will pass. And, if you find that you're not being motivated, take that break. Step away from whatever you're doing. Go for a walk. Listen to music. Read a book. Relax and rejuvenate. Change your environment. Sometimes all you need is a change. If you're working from home, go to a coffee shop. If you're stuck in a rut, change your environment can help you jumpstart your creativity. I like to go for a drive and then come back, and that normally resets my head. Talk to someone. It is really helpful to get this off your chest. Talk to somebody or journal. For me, this is where journaling's become a non-negotiable. I don't get in a funk very often, but I don't like it when I do because I'm not there often enough to appreciate that it's part of the journey. I actually think something's wrong sometimes, but I'm getting better at that because I'm allowed to go into a funk every once in a while. And so are you. But the more you take care of yourself, the less that happens. The more I journal, the less that happens. So whether you talk to somebody or you write in your journal and you just spend some time getting your thoughts off your chest, out of your head, more importantly, out of your head, and take action. Sometimes the best way to get out of a rut is to take action. Start working on that project. Start to move things around a little bit. Even if it's small, doing something will help you get out of a rut. I've got a good takeaway for you. Consider consistency like compound interest. It may not be flashy, but it will yield substantial results over time. It builds over time, just like compound interest. The more consistent you are, the more progress you'll make, and this progress will eventually adding up, resulting in significant changes in our lives. All right. Don't underestimate the power of motivation. So we've already established what it's like to have motivation. It's not a driving factor that we can completely rely upon individually. It plays a critical part in our results. In order to be successful, we need a combination of consistency and motivation. Sip of coffee time. No, it actually got cold. I don't know why I heat up my coffee before I do my podcast, because I take 3 sips and then it's cold and I have to go heat it up. I get to go heat it up because I don't mind drinking coffee, and we need to mind our language a little bit. Motivation creates critical inertia required for consistency. Anyone who's ever achieved a goal knows the importance of motivation. It's a driving force that keeps us going when things get tough. And it allows us to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Without motivation, it would be all too easy to give up on our dreams and to settle for a life of mediocrity. Thankfully, motivation is something that we can cultivate. By setting ourselves consistent goals and taking small steps toward them each day, we can gradually build up our motivation until it becomes an unstoppable force. Go back to the very beginning of today's podcast when I had mentioned the grain of rice and taking 1 cup and pouring it on your desk and having just one pile. But eventually that pile moves because you are consistently moving 1 grain of rice over every single day. So I have an exercise for you. As you go through today's episode, as you conclude it, we're not quite there yet, but as you conclude it, I would like you to practice this. Get yourself a jar. Like I've got tons of mason jars. So a mason jar will work. Put it on your desk. Every time you do something that brings you closer to your goals, put something in that jar. It can be rice, bean, a stone. It can be money. It can be a button if you've got a whole collection of buttons. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be scrap paper. like a piece of folded up paper, whatever. It doesn't matter. Every time you do something towards your goals at the end of each day or the beginning of the next day, add to that jar. Every time you make a choice that moves you further away from that jar or from that goal, take an item out. Yeah. We are going to add and remove what works for you in your life. So you can see the difference here between motivation and consistency and the impact on your life, because the items in that jar are going to grow and grow and grow unless you have to take things away. I'm going to encourage you to email me and share with me how this is going. I will put my email in the show notes. You should have it by now, but hopefully there's lots of new listeners and you have no clue what it is. That is my takeaway. But we're going to try this exercise because it's a powerful visualization. We don't see instant results in what we're doing right now. We don't. We want instant gratification, but we physically can't see it. But if we're seeing that we're taking action, we're going to be a lot more mindful. A lot more mindful. Last night, we went to see my dad in the hospital. Tony and I did. And we decided to pick up takeout on the way home. And I have a soft spot. Like, McDonald's is my Achilles heel. Let's just go there. For those that know me, I talk about it in my workshops. I talk about it in my podcast. McDonald's is my Achilles heel. I can't resist their fries. I used to work there as a kid. I ate it almost every day when I worked there because I didn't know better then. And so we had McDonald's last night. So after that, we were sitting there having our tea. And I didn't actually have tea, and I didn't have a treat for our bedtime routine like we normally do. And sometimes those treats can be super healthy, but regardless, I didn't have anything. And here's why. I just ate chicken nuggets and French fries and some iced tea. And no, I'm not eating anything more. This was already 8 o'clock-ish at night, a little bit later. So I brushed my teeth right afterwards. And is it the best thing I could have done? I still ate McDonald's. There were other choices I could have had, but I did not do more damage to my body right before bed. So I'm laughing because I'm human. You're talking to a weight loss life coach, an accountability coach, sharing her honesty. That's because it happens. I did actually make a tomato soup. It was in the Instapot, but it didn't taste good. I think I bought one of the jars of tomatoes that were already seasoned. I don't know. I knew that there was one can when I went to open it and pour it in that looked different than the rest. And I'm not sure why, but my soup just, it didn't turn out. So sometimes the best laid plans don't work, and I meal prepped and everything, but I wasn't prepared for us to be in the hospital at the time that we were at the hospital to see my dad. So what did I do about it, though? I brushed my teeth immediately because I didn't want to add more to my pile of things that were going on. That happens because now I would have to take my thing out of my jar, whatever your thing is, whether it's rice, beans, stone, money, jelly bean. Don't use jelly beans because you're going to be tempted to eat them. All right, my friends, let's sum up everything that we talked about today. We talked about motivation. We talked about consistency. We dabbled into inspiration, and we talked about a lot of realness, right? How some days you're just not going to feel like it. But consistency breeds habit. And once a habit is formed, it's easier to stick to it. If you're consistent with your routine, you're more likely going to reach your goals. Motivation comes and goes, but consistency is always there for you every day, whether you think about it or not. Just do it. Consistency helps you find a system that works for you, meaning it will be easier to stick with. More importantly, and the most important takeaway I have for you, be patient. It will take time to see the results, so don't get discouraged. If you don't see immediate changes, consistency is the key. Keep going. Like I said at the beginning, Rome was not built in a day. I didn't say it at the beginning. I was just seeing if you're paying attention. Okay, my friends, thank you so much for continuing after all of these years to like and follow me. If you like this, please do that. Please like, share, follow, go ahead and subscribe to get these podcasts more often. Email me how your jar system is going for you. Do it for 2 weeks and see what you come up with. Don't forget, I'm going to update the show notes with the book, and I'm going to add the link to the Getting Started guide as well as the video to check-in Friday. So you can see how I keep myself accountable. In the Friday video I'm going to share with you, I'll put this one up last week. It's my calendar method. So it's really, really cool. All right, my friends, make it a fantastic day. I'm sending so much love and light your way. And keep being your beautiful, beautiful self. If you want help with accountability, with staying on track, on course, I do offer one-on-one group coaching, one-on-one and group coaching to help keep you going in the direction of your dreams and helping you keep your promises to yourself. Make it a fantastic day.